Just let me know that. Let me know when you started on your side.
Okay, will do. All right.
We
All right, we are ready to go.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Lezondi. I'll be your teacher for this lesson. We're looking at MathLit grade 11. You can also get hold of me on my Twitter handle at Andile_Zondi1.
That's going to be 20 minutes.
Just now we are going to meet all learners. You can ask questions using the chat, raise hands. But at the end of the lesson, I'll look at your chat so that the lesson will go as smooth as possible. Okay, let's start. Okay, today and we are looking at interest, right? We're looking at interest. At the end of this lesson, you must know how to define interest and interest rate. Okay, those two things may sound similar, but they are very, very different. Interest is the amount, whereas interest rate is the percentage. Okay, you should be able to define the word simple interest and compound interest. Okay, how does this lesson apply in real life? You know, when you go to the bank and you deposit money, and after a year you expect large sums of money to come back, you need to first understand the concept of simple interest and the concept of compound interest to maximize your gain. So if you invest with a bank and they offer you simple interest, your returns won't be the same as if you were to invest with a bank and they're offering you compound interest. You'll also be performing simple and compound interest calculations. Okay, here are the terms that you must know. They always ask these terms at least once a year. So you should know them. The first one is interest. Interest is the money paid regularly at a particular rate for the use or loan of money. So interest is the amount of money that you will get for investing. That is your interest. And interest rate, this is the percentage rate of interest that will be charged on a loan or and on an investment. In other words, interest rate is a percentage that is used to calculate interest, whereas interest is the amount of money that you received. So these two are related, right? But this is percentage and this is amount. This is the keyword. This is amount of money. This is the percentage used to calculate interest. Okay, I think that is simple. Then we're looking at simple interest. Simple interest, this is the interest charged on the original amount. Let's say you're investing 1,000 Rand and the bank offers you 10%. So 10% of 1,000 will be 100 Rand. So each and every year you'll be earning the same amount of interest, which is 100 Rand. That's why you call it simple interest. And then compound interest. Here, interest is charged on an amount due, but including interest charges to date. In other words, compound interest is calculated by adding the interest for the first year and the original amount, which is the invested amount. From that amount, we'll be using that accumulated amount to calculate the new interest. So here, interest adds. That's why we call it compound. But you see exactly what I mean when we do calculations. Okay. Now, very, very important. Calculations for simple and compound interest are done manually. That means to calculate simple and compound interest, right? This is what they do in maths, but here in maths, you need to do it manually. That means step by step. And then there are just a number of keywords that you must know when we are dealing with simple and compound interest. The first one is principal amount. Principal amount is the initial amount that you invest. So this is the principal amount. And then total amount. Total amount is the principal amount plus your accumulated interest. That's what is called your total amount when it comes to this type of calculations. And then when I say period, here I mean the duration of your investment, right? Remember, either you are investing money or you are taking out a loan. So the same concept applies. And then the word per annum, abbreviated PA, basically means for each year, or once a year, right? Okay, next. Okay, now we need to also revise the concept of percentages, how it relates to common fractions, how it relates to decimal fractions. Okay, here's a simple example. Example 1, calculate 10% of 1,000. 10% of 1,000 can be calculated as this. You change obviously the word off, becomes times. Okay, there's a hand raised. Yes, Minte? Go ahead.
Sir, I just wanted to ask if you could please go back to the slide that says total amount and PA. I just wanted to write down the notes there.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Okay, I'll do that. I'll give you a couple of minutes to write those terms. Alternatively, you can always screenshot these notes so that your life will be easier, will be quicker. So these are the terms that you must understand when it comes to simple and compound interest. Lindsay, I hope you're done because I'm about to move on. Right? Total interest, principal amount, plus accumulated interest. Period, duration of investment. Per annum, PA, for each year. Okay, let me move on. Hopefully you're done. Okay, now let's see how these three concepts relate. Percentage, common fraction, and decimal fraction. Okay, for compound and simple interest, I like to use decimal fractions. Reason being, they're actually easy to work with, right? Okay, decimal fractions are easier to work with when it comes to simple and compound interest. Because if I'm using common fractions, every question I need to divide by 100 when I'm changing percentage to a common fraction. Okay, now let us look at this example. Calculate 10% of 1,000. 10% of 1,000 is obviously 1,000 times of becomes times 10%, which would give you 100 rands. Okay, this can also be written as 1,000 times 10 over 100. Remember, 10% can be written as 10 over 100, which gives you the same amount, which is 100 rand. Or this can be written as 1,000 multiplied by 0.1. Where does 0.1 come from? If you take your calculator and you punch in 10 divided by 100, your answer will be 0.1. So this is a decimal form of 10%. For most of my questions, I'll be using this because it is simple to work with. But obviously, your answer is the same for all. Okay, example 2. Increase 1,000 rand by 10%. Right. So step number 1, I need to get 10% of 1,000. 1,000 times 10%, or 1,000 times 10 over 100, which is 0.1, is equal to 100. Because I'm increasing, I need to add 10% of 1,000, which is 100 rand. So 1,000 plus 100 rand is 1,100. So I've increased 1,000 by 10%. Or okay, the second method is the method that I actually prefer, because your life becomes easier because you're able to work through questions quicker. If you're increasing something by 10%, the original amount always represents 100%, right? Original amount always represents 100%, but 100%, which is actually equivalent to, in this case, 1,000 plus 10%, which is equivalent to 100 rands, less 10% of 1,000, gives us 110%, which is equivalent to 1,100. Right? So I can say 1,000 times 110%, I'll get this answer. Or alternatively, I can change my percentage format to my decimal format by dividing by 100. So 110 divided by 100, my answer will be 1,1. So 1,1 is the decimal form of 110%. So 1,000 multiply it by 1,1 will get 1,100. Okay, that is simple. So this method is actually quicker than this method. Let's move on. Okay, here's an example. Okay, Zandile has an option of investing 10,000 at either Africa Bank or National Bank. Right, obviously, these are my banks. You don't know these banks. I know them. Okay, Africa Bank offers 13.33% PA per annum, simple interest. So what is very important in this case, let me use my pen. Africa Bank offers, okay, someone raised their hand. Okay, go ahead and ask a question. Morning. Morning. Okay, maybe the hand was raised. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so Africa Bank offers, this is interest rate. Remember, this is interest rate, simple interest, right? And National Bank offers the same interest rate. Remember, these are interest rates per annum per year. But different is National Bank offers at compound interest, right? So for this example, I want to see the difference between calculation that involves simple interest and calculation that involves compound interest. She will be investing for a period of 3 years. So this is the term of investment, 3 years. Okay. Question number 1. Calculate the amount of interest she will earn after investing in Africa Bank for 1 year. Okay, let's go back. Okay, Africa Bank offers the interest of 13.33%, obviously off the amount of money that she invested, which is 10,000, at simple interest. So let's carry on. So what we'll do, we'll take 10,000, which is a principal amount, initial invested amount, times 13.33%, which is the interest rate. This can be written as 13.33 divided by 100, or as I usually encourage learners, just divide your 13 by 100 and get 0.133. So interest that you'll earn from 10,000, you take 10,000 and you multiply it by the interest rate, and you'll get 1,333. Right, so that is the answer. I think that is simple and straightforward. So after 1 year, Zandile would have earned an interest of 1,333, having invested 10,000 for the first year. Right. Now with simple interest, interest does not change. Every year, it's the same interest because it is simple. So next question. Calculate the total interest she will earn at Africa Bank for 3 years. Remember, for 1 year, she earned 1,333, right? The period of investment is 3 years, right? Simple interest. Interest does not change for simple interest. So your answer will be interest for 1 year times 3 years. And after 3 years, she would have earned 3,999. Interest for 1 year times 3 is 3,999. I think everything is simple thus far. So maybe some of you become bankers. So this is the starting ground. Next question. Determine the total amount she will have after 3 years. How much money will she have after 3 years? Obviously, total amount will be the principal amount, the amount of money that she started with. How much money was that? That was 10,000. How much interest did she earn after 3 years? Interest was, after 3 years, was this amount, 3,999. So the total amount that you'll have will be the initial investment of 10,000 plus the total interest, which is 3,999. That will give you a total amount of 13,399. Not bad. After 3 years, her 10,000 has become 13,999. Okay, that's simple enough. So just need to remember that total interest will be your initial investment, the principal amount, plus the total interest. Notice my calculations are all done manually. I'm not using a formula to calculate this question. Otherwise, it will penalize you if you use a formula in an exam. Remember, I've marked a couple of papers before for page 12. So it will penalize you if you use a different method that's not prescribed by the KEPS curriculum. Okay, next question. Now, Zandile decides to invest 10,000 at National Bank. How much interest will she earn after 1 year? So we need to know what is the interest rate for National Bank. Obviously, as you read, you need to write notes, but I'll go back to the question. The question information said National Bank offers the interest rate. This is the rate of 13.33% compound interest. So for the first year, interest will be the same. In other words, for the first year, we'll say 10,000 times 13.33%, which is equal to 0.1333. Remember, if you said 13.33 divided by 100, percentage divided by 100, this will be your answer. So after 1 year, her interest is 1,399 for the National Bank, right? So it is exactly the same as the interest that she earned at Africa Bank. Okay, now let's carry on. Now the question says, determine the total amount she will have after 3 years, right? After 3 years, yes. Having invested the money at National Bank. Remember, total amount we're looking at the principal amount, which is 10,000. Principal amount, which is 10,000, right? Plus accumulated interest for 3 years. Plus interest for 3 years will be our answer for total amount, right? But because this is compound interest, calculations will differ. Let me just show you how. Okay, first of all, to make our lives easy, let us add 100%, which represents the original figure of 10,000, plus our interest rate, which represents the interest that you'll earn, and this will represent the final amount for that term, 13.33%. that gives us 113.33%. So each and every year will be earning equivalent of 13.33% compound interest. Right? Remember, you can use fractions, common fractions, but I like to use decimals because they're easy. So I'll convert my percentage into my decimal form. How will I do that? I would say my percentage amount divided by 100. Remember, the percentage has 2 zeros there. 1 0, 1 0. There are those 2 zeros. 1, 2, right? And 1, that's 1 represents this one. So it is incorrect to take this number as is and divide by 100. You need to remove the percentage sign when you're dividing by 100. So our interest rate is 1,1333. Okay, we'll see just now how this relates to our calculations. Let me move on. So for the first year, compound interest, this is compound interest. Compound interest. For the first year, you've seen that. Okay, let me just finish for the first year, if she invested Africa Bank, her principal amount is 10,000 times the interest rate written as a percentage. This will give you, obviously, the answer will be the first year, 11,333. Now notice with compound interest, you need to add the amount of interest you earned the first year plus the principal amount each and every time you calculate. So for the first year, the interest was 11,333, right? This can also be written as obviously 10,000. Right? So when I write using my mouse, plus the interest for the first year, which is 1,333. This is 13.33%. Will give you this figure here. Right? But I've simplified my life and I've just set times by 1,133, which is 100 plus 13.33% written in decimal form. For year 2, this is the amount of money that she has in her investment, 11,333. Right? Each and every year it increases by 13%. 13% obviously 100 plus 13.33% divided by 100. This is obviously your interest rate written as a percentage, as a decimal format, I mean. So your answer will be 12,884,6899. You've increased the amount of money that you accumulated for the first year by 13.33%, and then your answer is 12,843,686,889, right? Okay, and remember now, notice because it's compound interest, each and every you need to add interest for each and every and calculate interest using the accumulated figure. Okay, for year 3, the amount of money that she has in the account is this much, 12,884,6,889. Right. I'm also increasing this amount of money by 13%, which is 1,1333. This will give me that figure. Right. Now notice my values, all of my values are not rounded off, right? Because I haven't reached my final answer. You only round off at your final answer. So that's why I'm not running off my figures. I'm only running them off at my final answer. So after 3 years, she would have earned 14,555.75. Okay, it may be a bit complicated, but just revise this page. Okay, let's move on. Now the question says, question F, determine the difference in interest earned over 3 years between the two banks. Remember, we're dealing with the first bank is Africa Bank. The second bank is a national bank, right? Total interest for Africa Bank was that amount of money. total interest for National Bank was, only looking at the interest, was 4,555, right? Okay, so what is the difference in interest? Okay, if you're using the total amount, after 3 years, the amount of money that you earned from National Bank was 14,000, right? Minus the total amount of money that you earned from Africa Bank, which is 13,979. So the difference is 500, 675, right? Okay, this figure is the total amount for Africa Bank. Let me just make sure. For National Bank, this figure is the total figure for Africa Bank. The difference is 556.75. So you can see that the second bank, which offered you compound interest, is compound interest, accumulated more amount, more money than the bank that offered you simple interest. Right? After 3 years, you actually have 556.75 more money if you've invested with option that gives you compound interest compared to the option that gives you simple interest, right? Now, part 2 of this question says, which bank would you choose, or which bank would you advise it to choose, and why? Obviously, the bank that gives you more money after 3 years, more interest after 3 years. That bank is obviously the one that gave you the compound interest option, because the interest rate was the same, which was National Bank, right? So my answer was she must choose a National Bank because it will offer her more interest, right? 500 more, 556.76 more interest than she would have earned at the other bank. Okay. Let us now look at an exam type of question. Okay, don't freak out when you see this question because it is actually a national paper for grade 12. Most of the work that you do at grade 11 will overlap with the work that you're doing at grade 12, right? In fact, some of the questions are actually similar. Only the new topics are actually different topics that you'll meet next year. But simple and compound interest is exactly the same. So let's look at exam type of questions. I always encourage my learners to use past exam papers because you need to familiarize yourself with how questions are asked in exams. Okay, here's our example. BBC Bank has 2 different interest rates. Remember, interest rate, we look at percentage. There they are. First one, second one. For fixed deposits, depending on the amount of money invested. So if you invest less than 10,000, you'll earn less interest, which is 6.4%. If you're investing more than 10,000, your interest rate that will be given to you is 7.4%. Okay, here is our question. Question 1.2.1. Mr. Simons invest 9,500, right, on the 1st of January 2015 in a BBC Bank account, right? Obviously, you need to first identify which interest rate are we using, right? Will we use 6.4 or 7.4? Obviously, because this amount is less than 10,000, we'll be using this interest rate. Right? Now they say show that the final amount in his account will be 10,108 after 1 year. Right? Okay. When they say show, that means this must not use this amount in your calculation. This amount must be your final answer. Okay, so question number 1. Let us first calculate the amount of interest that he will earn after 1 year, right? Remember, we're using 6.4%. So you'll take the principal amount, which is 9,500 multiplied by 6.4%, which is 6.4 divided by 100. That will be 0.064. So the amount of interest that Mr. Simmons will earn after 1 year will be 6,008. So 6,008 rands, right? Okay, so the final amount in his account after a year will be the principal amount, initial amount invested, plus interest earned over a year. That will give you 10,108, which is exactly what they wanted. 10,108. Okay, learners, I won't give you homework, but your homework is to redo this question without looking at the answers. That is your homework for today. Now let us move on. Now here I said, oh, there's another way of doing this question, which is quicker. The way that I actually prefer is to say, if the bank will increase Mr. Simmons' capital or invested amount by 6.4%, in essence, he would have earned 106.4% of his investment. So 100 is the original amount plus 6.4%, which represents the amount of interest that he will earn. Remember, this is interest rate. By using this to calculate interest, this will give us about 1.6.4%, right? So the final figure will represent 106.4%. So you simply take your principal amount multiplied by 106.4%, which is 106.4 divided by 100. This is 1.064, and then your answer is X. So you can actually do this in 3 steps. Just show me how you got 106. Then show me this step and next step, and then your answer would have been correct. So that is the first question, right? I think it's simple. You can use this method, or you can use this method. For learners, this is actually usually easier. If you want to understand this method, then you can use this method. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Question 1.2.2. It says, Mr. Simmons reinvested the amount of 10,108 for a further 6 months, right? Okay, now they say hence determine the final amount in his account at the end of 6 months. So now notice, right? So 10,108 is actually more than 10,000. So we'll be using this interest rate to calculate his interest, right, for a further 6 months, right? Okay. But now this interest rate is per annum, right? Per annum, per year. Okay, Mintle, carry on, you can ask a question. Host, please unmute Mintle. Hello, Mintle.
Sir,
Yes.
I wanted to ask, how did you get 1,064 on question 1.2.1 for the final amount?
Which one? This one? 1,064.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, very good question. I simply took 106%, which is 106, right? 4, which is that amount. And I converted it to a decimal, because decimals are easy to work with, right? They save space. If you divide that amount by 100, you would have got 1,064. You can just verify that using calculator. Do you understand, Mintle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Great question, right? Let us move on to. Okay, thank you, Mintle. I think you covered. Mintle, do you have another question? Host, please unmute Mintle again. Mintle? Okay, I think Mintle is covered. Okay, question 2. I only have about 10 minutes. Okay, for question 2, the interest rate that you'll be using is 7.4%, right? But for 6 months, this interest is for the whole year. So obviously 6 months is actually half of the year. So we need to divide our interest by 2, because this amount of money was not invested for the entire year, but only for the half of the year. 6 months is half of the year. So I want to know how much money will he have, his final amount, total amount after 6 months, right? I'm using half of this interest, because for the whole year would have given him 7.4%, but he only invested his amount for 6 months, which is half a year. Thus, I need to divide the interest like this. So interest after 6 months, for the whole year, the interest is 7.4%. So for 6 months, which is half a year, we'll divide the interest by 2. This will give us 3.7% for 6 months, right? Okay, let me, sorry, put that on there. Okay, so my interest for 6 months is 3.7%, right? So I can simply say 100 plus 3.7 is equal to 103.7%. So the amount of money that Mr. Simmons will invest will increase by 103.7%. That is equivalent to 1,037, which is the decimal form of 103.7%, right? Why am I using decimal fractions? They save space. They make my life very, very easy, as you will see just now. So the final amount after 6 months will be the amount of money that he had at the beginning of the year, which is 10,108, right? Times by 303.7%, which is 1,037. So after 6 months, he would have obtained a total of 10,483. Right? You can also do this the long way. Right? The long way is to calculate 3.7% of the amount of money invested. Okay, let me see if I can write this quick. So here's the amount of money that he invests, right? Times 3.7% for 6 months, which is 3.7%. 3.7 divided by 100. Okay, right? And then you would obtain a figure of, let me just quickly calculate that using my calculator. Okay, give me a second. Okay, according to my calculator, 3.7% divided by 100, obviously 0.037 times this amount, 10,108. Okay, that would give you about 3.73. Okay, 996. Basically, run it off to about 3,374. Then take this amount and add it to the invested amount. Then your answer will be this. This will be your answer, right? Okay, I think that is simple enough. Okay, I have a few minutes left, right? Okay, before I continue, are there any questions, learners? Are there any questions? Okay, let me check the chat. Okay, here there's a number of chats. Okay, someone says, do banks not calculate daily? That depends. Some banks do calculate daily. Depends on the structure that they're using. Some banks calculate interest daily. Some calculate it monthly. Some calculate it quarterly, which is every 3 months. Some calculate it half yearly, which is every 6 months. And some calculate it once a year, right? So that's a very good question. They say, don't you run off to decimal places? Yes, we do, but we run off our final answer to decimal places. Our final answer must be run off to 2 decimal places. Otherwise, our answer will be off if we run off early, right? Okay, someone has assisted us here. See if there's other questions. Okay, someone says it's possible to do the whole sum then divided by 2. No, you can't do that. You can't do the whole sum then divided by 2. The answer will be incorrect, right? Okay, sorry, let me think about that. I think this Lena is talking about this question here. Question 2. Let's go back. I only have a couple of minutes left. Let me go back. Oh, this question here. Yes, in fact, you can actually calculate interest for the whole year. For the whole year, and then divide by 2. So that is correct. Okay, that's well done. Good thinking. Then add that interest to your initial amount. Then you would have gotten the same answer. Okay, well done. See if there are other questions before I say goodbye. Okay. There are no other questions, no longer questions. So what I want you to do at home is to go back and redo this question, this entire question as is. If possible, I want you to screenshot this question and do it, right? And then you can actually post your answer using the hashtag that I'll provide you at the end. Okay, next. Okay, revision questions. You need to define these 2 terms. These terms always confuse learners. Right? You need to know how to define those 2 terms. Very, very important. Okay. Interest rate and interest rate. Interest is the amount of money earned, right? When you're investing, interest rate is the percentage used to calculate interest, right? So you need to know how to define those terms accordingly, right? But obviously, I want you guys to give me your answers. What's my answer? Your answers using the social media and the hashtag provided, right? Let me just carry on. Takeaway message: practice, practice, practice. Remember, with MathSplit, you cannot study it. You need to do it. The more you do, the easier. I suggest that you use past papers, right? If you currently don't have past papers, you can use grade 12 past papers, which are provided free of charge from the link that I'll provide just now. Okay, memorize terms. In this case, today we are memorizing 3 terms: interest, interest rate, simple interest, and compound interest. Then show all your working out. Don't just give me the answer. Show me how you got your answer. Remember to include units. If you talk about money, in South Africa we use rands, and round off your answers accordingly. With amounts, you always round off to 2 decimal places, right? But obviously you need to round off within context. Okay, and then for more information, I highly recommend this website for past papers. Even though most of these papers are grade 12, just do the topics that you are familiar with. And then a sneak preview for tomorrow's lesson. We'll be looking at more complex compound interest calculations, and we'll also be looking at simple and compound interest graphs. You need to know how to analyze this, and this is actually all Okay, for further information, please contact info@africathinkics.com. You can use our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and these hashtags, that hashtag and that hashtag. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Lovely questions you asked today. Practice, practice, practice.